Think of a message that spikes your stress. Right now, notice your belly and that tiny pause, like someone just hit mute. Maybe your appetite vanishes. Maybe your stomach feels tight. Maybe you suddenly need a bathroom even though you were fine 30 seconds ago. That is not imagination. That is timing. For a lot of people, digestion does not slowly fade when they are stressed. It drops out instantly, right at the moment the brain decides, this might be danger. So let us explain the exact mystery in today's title, Why Your Gut Completely Stops Working. The exact moment your brain detects stress, and what is actually flipping inside you when that happens. Most of us grow up with two separate stories. Story 1. Stress is in your head. It is thoughts, emotions, worry. Story 2. Digestion is in your gut. It is food, stomach acid, enzymes, fiber. So when stress messes with your stomach, the default explanation is basically, my emotions are upsetting my stomach, like your feelings spilled over. But that does not match what people actually experience. You can eat the same lunch on 2 different days. On one day, totally normal. On the other, you get bloated, nauseated, painfully full, or weirdly hungry. And the only difference was a tense email, a meeting, a phone call, a fight, a deadline. And the timing is the giveaway. Sometimes it happens before the stressful thing even starts. Here is the contradiction. Digestion is a luxury process. It is slow, it is expensive, it takes energy, blood flow, coordination, and time. Your gut is basically running a factory, grinding, mixing, pumping, secreting, absorbing, and moving things forward in the right order. Stress is the opposite. Stress is your body saying, we might need speed now. If your brain believes you are about to be threatened, whether that threat is a barking dog or a social situation that feels dangerous, your body does not want to spend resources on breaking down lunch. It wants your heart, lungs, muscles, and senses ready to move. And here is the key point for today. When people say my gut stopped working, that does not always mean the gut is literally frozen. It can mean motility patterns change, secretions change, and blood flow gets rerouted so quickly that digestion feels like it just went offline. So the real question is not, why am I anxious? The real question is, what is the specific physical lever that can shut digestion down within seconds? Let us treat this like a control system problem, not a mood problem. If your gut can change in 10 seconds, you will probably agree it is being controlled more like a reflex than a feeling. Something fast, something automatic, something that does not wait for you to think it through. And we are going to track it in the order it actually happens. First, the brain detects threat. Then the nervous system flips priorities. Then the gut loses its go signal. Then the blood supply shifts. Then your gut's own nervous system switches programs. And only after that do the longer stress chemicals make it stick around. One quick promise before we start. This is not one of those videos that says drink lemon water, calls it cortisol, and moves on. No vibes, no magic supplements. We are sticking to the wiring and the physics. So here is the map. We are going second by second, from your brain's alarm to the exact moment your belly goes quiet. Your brain is doing something all the time that you almost never notice. It is scanning. Not just for lions, for anything that predicts trouble. A weird tone in someone's voice, a sudden silence, a social cue that means you might get rejected, a subject line that looks like bad news. Your brain does not need to form a full sentence about it. It just needs enough evidence to say, potential threat. And when it does, it can trigger a body-wide state change before your conscious mind finishes narrating what is happening. It looks like you decide to feel stressed, but it is actually your nervous system changing modes first, and then your thoughts catching up and trying to explain why. That mode shift has a name in physiology, but you do not need the jargon to understand the idea. One branch of your nervous system is optimized for mobilizing you, speed, alertness, readiness. Another branch is optimized for maintenance, repair, storage, digestion. When your brain hits the alarm, it biases you toward mobilization. You can feel it immediately in places that are not subtle. Your heart starts pushing harder. Your breath gets shallower or higher in your chest. Your hands might get colder. Your jaw tightens. Your attention narrows. And right there in that first wave is the beginning of the gut change. So what is the first wire that makes digestion feel like it just lost power? There is one connection that matters more than almost anything else for turning digestion on: the vagus nerve. Think of it as a high bandwidth cable between your brain and your organs. It carries information down to the gut and back up to the brain. It helps coordinate stomach activity, pancreatic secretions, and the kind of rhythmic gut movement that moves a meal along instead of leaving it sitting there like a rock. When you are calm, this pathway is one of the main reasons digestion runs smoothly without you thinking about it. It is basically your body saying, "We are safe enough to invest in processing food." When you are stressed, that safe enough signal gets reduced. Most people miss this. Stress does not only work by adding some aggressive fight signal. A lot of the gut shutdown happens because the parasympathetic drive, the steady rest and digest permission, gets pulled back. And that is a huge difference, because when you remove that permission, the gut does not just keep doing the same thing but with worse vibes. The coordination changes, timing changes, sensations change. You can feel full sooner. You can feel nauseated. You can feel like your stomach is just sitting there, refusing to move things forward. That is one reason the timing can be so fast. This is neural control. It is electricity and signaling. It does not have to wait for hormone levels to build up in your bloodstream. But there is another lever that makes the "I cannot digest right now" feeling even more intense. And it is not in your head at all. It is in your blood vessels. Digestion requires a ton of local work. The stomach and intestines are moving. The glands are secreting. The gut lining is transporting nutrients, and all of that costs energy. Energy arrives second by second through blood flow. So when your body goes into threat mode, it does something brutally practical. It redistributes blood to the places that improve survival right now. More to the heart so it can pump. More to the muscles so they can move. Changes in the skin and periphery, and often less to the big digestive blood supply. The splanchnic circulation. Most people miss this too. A major part of my gut shut down is literally your body clamping down the gut's blood supply because, in an emergency, digestion is a bad investment. If you have ever had that sensation of a cold or tight belly, or nausea that seems to come out of nowhere, part of what you are feeling is that the system is being defunded, not morally, mechanically. And again, the timing can be quick. Blood vessels respond to nerve signals fast. Your body is essentially running a triage algorithm. Keep the core systems for action online and put long, resource-heavy processes on pause. You are not weak, you are not broken, you are running a survival budget. But now we have a puzzle. If the gut is losing its go signal and losing blood flow, why do some people get the opposite of shutdown in one very specific way? Why does stress sometimes cause urgent diarrhea, like your body is hitting fast forward, not pause? To answer that, we have to zoom into the gut itself, because the gut is not just a tube that obeys orders. It has its own nervous system. Your intestines are packed with networks of neurons that can coordinate movement locally. That is why your gut can keep working even when you are not paying attention, because it is not waiting for your conscious mind. And it is not even waiting for a detailed step-by-step plan from your brain. It runs patterns, and under threat, the goal of those patterns changes. When everything is calm, the gut's job is pretty obvious: break down food efficiently, extract nutrients, regulate fluid, keep things moving at a reasonable pace, and keep the lining protected. When the brain flags danger, the gut gets a different set of priorities. And they are not about comfort. They are about protection. Protection can mean reducing how much you commit to digestion right now. It can mean changing secretions, changing mucus, and shifting the rhythm of contractions from mix and absorb to something more defensive. So the gut does not always turn off. It can switch operating systems. And there is another layer to this that makes stress feel so gut-specific. Your sensitivity changes. A normal amount of stretch in the stomach, Something you would not notice on a relaxed day can suddenly feel like pressure, heaviness, even pain. Not because the meal changed, but because the system is reading the whole situation as higher stakes. The volume sensors, the tension sensors, the pain pathways, they are all being tuned. Okay, so the gut has its own controller, and under stress, it runs a different program. But which program? Why do some people clamp down and get constipated, while others feel like their body is trying to evacuate immediately? Here is the part that clears up a lot of confusion. The digestive tract is not one uniform machine. Different segments have different jobs, different muscle patterns, and different control priorities. Your stomach is not your colon. Your small intestine is not your rectum. And stress does not push every segment in the exact same direction. Most people miss this. Stress can slow the front half of digestion while speeding up the back half at the same time. That sounds contradictory until you think about what each part is trying to do. Under stress, the upper system often becomes cautious. Slower stomach emptying can mean you are not committing more resources to digestion. And it can also reduce the risk of nausea turning into vomiting in the wrong moment, because vomiting makes you vulnerable. Either way, the end result can feel like a brick in your stomach, early fullness, queasiness, that stuck feeling. Meanwhile, the lower system, the colon and rectum, can respond in a couple different ways. In some people, threat mode biases toward propulsion and secretion, more water in the stool, faster movement, and suddenly you have got urgency. It is the body's defensive logic. Lighten the load, clear the runway, remove anything that could be a liability if you need to run. In other people, threat mode goes the opposite direction. The muscles of the pelvic floor tighten, the outlet gets guarded, the movement slows. And that is constipation. Not because the gut forgot how, but because the system is bracing. Same stress state, different default settings, different outcomes. And this is why you cannot reduce stress digestion to one simple line, like stress speeds things up or stress slows things down. It can do both, depending on where you are looking. So far, we have been talking about what happens in the instant moment, nerves changing, blood flow shifting, local gut pattern switching. But you have probably experienced something else too. Sometimes the stressful moment ends, and your gut stays weird anyway. You get home, the meeting is over, the email is handled, and your appetite still is not back. Or your stomach still feels tight, or your bathroom schedule still is off. That is where the timeline changes. In the first seconds, the nervous system does most of the work, but over the next minutes and hours, stress chemistry starts to deepen and extend the effect. Your body releases stress mediators that help keep you mobilized. Research in this area has consistently shown that these signals do not just affect mood or energy. They also influence gut movement, secretion, immune signaling, and sensitivity. One pathway that matters here is the brain-to-body stress axis that changes how the body allocates resources over time. It is like the difference between tapping the brakes for a second and then actually switching the whole car into a different drive mode. And once those longer signals are in play, another issue shows up: the gut lining and the immune system. Your gut is not only digesting, it is also acting like a border control. It decides what gets absorbed, what stays out, and how aggressively to respond to potential threats. Under repeated or intense stress, that border control can become more reactive. In some contexts, stress has been shown to increase permeability and immune activity in ways that can make the gut more sensitive and more inflamed feeling, even when nothing dangerous was in the meal. Now, add the final twist: feedback. If your stomach feels awful, your brain reads that sensation as information. And if you have ever had nausea right before something important, your brain can start treating gut sensation itself as a threat cue, so the loop closes. Stress triggers gut changes. Gut discomfort signals danger. That signal triggers more stress response, which triggers more gut changes. At that point, the moment becomes a pattern, and the pattern starts to feel like your gut is randomly betraying you. But it is not random. It is a system doing exactly what it was designed to do: just in a modern environment where the alarm gets pulled way too often. Here is the core answer. Your gut stops working at the moment your brain detects stress because your brain instantly flips you into a survival budget. Parasympathetic vagus output drops, sympathetic drive rises, blood is redirected away from digestion, and the gut's own nervous system switches from digest and absorb patterns to defend and prepare patterns. That is why it can feel immediate. The first part is neural. It happens faster than your conscious story about the stress. And it is why the shutdown can feel complete, even when your gut is not literally motionless. If coordinated stomach emptying slows, if secretions change, if blood flow is clamped, and if your sensitivity is turned up, digestion becomes inefficient and uncomfortable fast. It also explains the symptom split. Upper gut breaking can feel like nausea, heaviness, early fullness, and appetite disappearing. Lower gut shifting can mean urgency and diarrhea in one person, and constipation and guarding in another. So that half-second your stomach goes quiet when you read the stressful message is not weakness. It is a power reallocation. Now, is this bad? In the short term, it is a feature. If you truly need to act, digestion is not the priority, and your body is smart to redirect resources. The cost shows up when that switch gets triggered all the time by deadlines, relationship tension, financial worry, constant notifications, too much caffeine, too little sleep, and stress that never resolves cleanly. Then you are not just having a nervous stomach. You are repeatedly training the same reflex loop, and your gut can become more sensitive, more reactive, and slower to return to baseline. And just to be completely clear, there is no supplement or gadget that turns your vagus on like a light switch, and I am not selling you one. If anyone claims they can hack this with one pill or one device, be skeptical. Also, a quick safety note. If you are dealing with persistent severe symptoms, unintentional weight loss, blood in stool, fever, or symptoms that wake you up at night, that is not a YouTube protocol moment. That is a talk to a clinician moment. The shift I want you to take away is simple. Your gut is a state-dependent organ. It is not just reacting to food, it is reacting to what your brain thinks the world is right now. Once you know that, you start noticing the early signals, the jaw clench, the chest breathing, the shoulder rise, the way you stop swallowing, and then, right after that, the gut changes. Instead of thinking my digestion is random, you can think my digestion is giving me a readout. I am in defense mode. And that changes your choices. You stop trying to brute force a huge meal when your body is clearly allocating resources elsewhere. You stop interpreting every symptom as a mysterious food intolerance. You start seeing 3 places you can intervene: your threat appraisal, your autonomic output, and the load you are putting on the gut in that moment. So what do you do right when it happens, when the email hits and your belly goes silent? Here is a simple protocol. Do it in order. First, name the mode out loud if you can. I am in threat mode. Digestion is being deprioritized. That sounds almost too basic, but it matters because uncertainty is fuel for the stress response, and labeling the state can take a little pressure off the system. Second, change your physiology for 60 to 90 seconds. Go exhale dominant. Slow your breath and make the exhale longer than the inhale. Or do 2 or 3 rounds of a double inhale through the nose, long exhale through the mouth-style breath. The point is not relaxation theater. The point is to bias your nervous system away from full mobilization. Third, unclench the chain that often locks digestion down. Drop your shoulders, unhook your jaw, and let your belly soften. If you are someone who tends toward constipation with stress, posture, and guarding matter more than you think. Fourth, do not stack the load for the next hour or 2. If you need to eat, go smaller and simpler. This is not about clean eating. It is about not demanding a heavy digestive investment while your body is still running a survival budget. Fifth, add gentle motion. A 5 to 10 minute easy walk can help normalize the rhythm without adding the extra stress. Signal that a hard workout might create. Sixth, if this is happening a lot, do not just fight the moments, track the pattern. Sleep debt, caffeine timing, bid meals right before stressful events, constant multitasking, and chronic anticipatory worry can all keep you stuck in that loop. And if it is persistent or worsening, get medical guidance instead of trying to self-hack forever. Next time that stressful message hits and you feel that half-second your stomach goes quiet, when you read the stressful message, you will know which switches just flipped and how to flip them back.